The telegram arrived at 09:17 a.m. Mrs. Adler was baking bread when the knock came. 2 officers stood at the door, hats in hand, eyes lowered. She already knew. Mothers always do. "We regret to inform you," the words blurred. "Killed in action, Eastern Front, bravery, sacrifice." Her son, Lucas Adler, age 24, gone. A week later, the coffin arrived, sealed, closed. "Severe damage," they explained. "Identification confirmed by unit." She was not allowed to open it. The funeral was quiet. Closed casket, black coats, muted prayers, soil falling on wood. 3 shots fired into the sky. War was efficient. It buried quickly. But the war was wrong, because 1,200 kilometers away, in a field hospital near the border, a man opened his eyes. He did not remember his name. He did not remember his rank. He did not remember the explosion, only fire, mud, and screaming. They found him under bodies, barely breathing. No identification tag, burned uniform, shrapnel wounds across his chest. Unconscious for 9 days. The doctors labeled him Unknown Soldier 47B. Weeks passed. He survived infection. He survived fever. He survived surgery. But he could not answer a single question. Name? Silence. Unit? Nothing. Family? Empty stare. One nurse insisted she had seen him before. His accent, she said. German, Southern. But in war, accents blur. Faces change. Memory fractures. Meanwhile, back home, Mrs. Adler sat alone at the kitchen table. The house felt larger, quieter, wrong. She kept Lucas's room untouched. Boots by the door, books on the shelf, bed made. Waiting. For what? She didn't know. 3 months after the funeral, a letter arrived. Official stamp, military seal. Subject line: regarding the soldier identified as Lucas Adler. Her hands trembled before she even opened it. The words inside were careful, uncertain, disturbing. Possible misidentification, survivor matching physical description, memory impairment, further confirmation required. Her heart began to race. Impossible. She had buried him. She had watched the coffin lowered. She had grieved. She had accepted. Hadn't she? In the hospital, the unnamed soldier stared at a cracked mirror. He touched the scar across his jaw. He studied his own eyes, searching for recognition, finding none. A doctor entered quietly. "We may know who you are." Pause. "Your name might be Lucas Adler." The man blinked. The name meant nothing, and everything. 2 weeks later, a train arrived at the small town station. A thin man stepped down, uniform replaced by plain clothes, face marked by war, eyes unfamiliar. Mrs. Adler stood frozen on the platform. He looked like her son, almost, but not entirely. War reshapes men. Memory erases them. He stopped in front of her. Silence stretched between them. She whispered, "Lucas?" He hesitated, then answered softly, "I don't know." The house smelled the same. Bread, wood smoke, old books. The man stood in the doorway, unsure whether to step inside. Mrs. Adler watched him carefully. Every movement, every blink, every hesitation. If this was her son, why did he stand like a guest? "Come in," she said softly. He obeyed. His eyes scanned the walls. Photographs, a childhood portrait, a school certificate, a fishing trip by the lake. He stared at the boy in the frame. Dark hair, wide smile, confident eyes. "Is that me?" he asked. Her heart cracked. "Yes." He touched the frame. No recognition, no memory. Only a faint pressure in his chest, like something buried too deep. At dinner, silence dominated. He held the spoon awkwardly, left hand. Lucas had always been right-handed. Mrs. Adler noticed, said nothing. "Do you remember your room?" she asked. He shook his head. She led him upstairs. The door creaked open, everything preserved, boots aligned, uniform folded, books stacked, dust untouched, like a shrine. He stepped inside slowly, sat on the bed, closed his eyes. Nothing came. No laughter, no childhood, only flashes, mud, explosion, smoke, someone screaming his name. But it wasn't clear. That night he dreamed, not of this house, but of another voice, a man shouting, "Eric, down!" He woke up sweating. Eric? Who was Eric? The next morning, neighbors gathered outside. Word had spread. The dead soldier returned. Some stared in awe, others in suspicion. One old man whispered, "They sent imposters before." War created confusion, paperwork mistakes, deserters pretending to be someone else, people desperate for identity. The local priest requested proof. Birthmark? Scar? Childhood memory? Mrs. Adler insisted on privacy, but doubt had entered the room, and doubt is loud. Later, alone in the kitchen, she asked him gently, "What was the name of your first dog?" He hesitated, long enough. Then, "I don't know." Her eyes watered, because Lucas would have answered instantly, "Bruno." That evening, he found a small wooden box under the bed. Inside, letters, old ones, written in his handwriting, addressed to his mother from the front. He read them slowly, each line detailed, specific, personal. He studied the signature at the bottom, Lucas Adler. He compared it to his current handwriting. Different, slightly, but different. His hands began to shake. "What if I'm not him?" he whispered. Mrs. Adler looked at him, not at his scars, not at his eyes, at the way he held the paper, the way his jaw tightened when anxious, the way he avoided her gaze when uncertain. Some things don't change. Memory does. Character doesn't. That night, she sat beside him and said quietly, "You may not remember being my son." Pause. "But I remember you." He looked at her. For the first time, there was emotion. Not confusion, not emptiness, but something fragile, something forming. Outside, rumors grew. Inside, identity cracked. And far away, military records began to reveal something troubling, because the body buried in Lucas Adler's coffin may not have been a mistake. 2 weeks after his return, a second letter arrived. This one was not careful, not polite, not uncertain. It was marked Internal Military Correction Notice. Mrs. Adler opened it alone. Her hands no longer trembled. They felt numb. Body previously identified as Lucas Adler was confirmed via personal identification tag recovered on site. Pause. Further investigation suggests identification tag may have been exchanged prior to fatal impact. Exchanged. Not lost. Not damaged. Exchanged. At the front, soldiers sometimes traded tags. Superstition, luck, jokes, or desperation. But this exchange was deliberate, because the body in the coffin had worn Lucas's tag, but forensic review showed the remains were not consistent with his medical records. Different healed fracture, different dental structure, different blood type. If that body wasn't Lucas, then whose funeral had she attended? And why had someone been wearing her son's tag? In the kitchen, the man she called Lucas stared at his reflection again. He had found something under his collar, a faint scar, circular, like a bullet wound. But Lucas had never been shot before the war, at least not according to his records. That night, the dreams changed. They became clearer. A battlefield, snow, two men hiding behind the same broken wall, one shouting orders, the other laughing nervously. "Eric, if we make it home, I'm taking your boots." Laughter. Then, explosion. White. Silence. He woke up breathing hard. Eric. The name was not random. It was close. Too close. The next day, a visitor arrived. A soldier from Lucas's former unit. He stood stiff in the doorway, eyes heavy. "I need to see him." They sat at the table. The visitor studied the man carefully. Long, uncomfortable. Then he asked quietly, "What did you call me before every patrol?" The man froze. Nothing. Blank. The visitor's jaw tightened. "You called me Professor because I wore glasses." Silence. Lucas never forgot that. The air shifted. Mrs. Adler felt it, like something falling apart. The visitor stood up. "He looks like him," he admitted. "But that's not Lucas." He paused at the door. "And if he is, something happened out there." After he left, the man sat alone, staring at the wooden floor, his hands shaking again. "What if I'm Eric?" he whispered. The name felt warmer, closer, more real. Mrs. Adler's voice cracked. "Eric who?" He looked at her, with fear now, real fear. I think Lucas died." Silence crushed the room. Not explosive, not dramatic, just heavy. The explosion on the battlefield had done more than wound bodies. It had swapped something. Identity, tags, perhaps even lives. If Eric survived wearing Lucas's tag, then Lucas may have died wearing Eric's tag, buried under the wrong name, mourned by the wrong mother. And now, a stranger sat in her kitchen, carrying her son's face, but possibly not her son's soul. The kitchen felt smaller now. The man across the table was no longer just wounded, he was fractured. "If I'm Eric," he said slowly, "then Lucas is dead." The words hung between them, sharp, unavoidable. Mrs. Adler didn't cry, not this time. She had already buried a coffin, she had already grieved. Now she was facing something worse. Choice. "Tell me," she said quietly, "what do you remember?" He closed his eyes. Snow, mud, gunfire, Lucas laughing beside him. They had been close, closer than brothers, shared food, shared stories, shared fear. "The explosion," he whispered. "We were thrown apart." He swallowed hard. "I woke up first." He remembered that now, clear, painfully clear. Lucas had been bleeding heavily, dog tags twisted in his hand. Eric had tried to stop the bleeding, tried to drag him, but artillery returned. Closer, closer. "He gave me something," the man said. Mrs. Adler leaned forward. "What?" "He pushed his tags into my hand." Silence. He said, "If one of us makes it home, tell my mother I wasn't afraid." Her breath stopped. Eric had hesitated, shells exploding, snow turning red. He didn't want to leave Lucas, but Lucas had shoved him. "Go." Then, white flash, sound gone, darkness. When he woke up in the hospital, he was wearing Lucas's tag, not because of deception, not because of malice, but because in that final second, they had chosen each other. Mrs. Adler's hands trembled. "So you are Eric?" He nodded slowly. "Yes." Tears finally filled her eyes, not of anger, not of betrayal, of truth. "You carried him?" she asked. "Yes." "You tried to save him?" "Yes." "Did he suffer?" He swallowed. "No." A lie, but a necessary one. Silence again, longer this time. He stood up slowly. "I shouldn't be here," he said. "This was never my home." He walked toward the door, each step heavy, each breath uncertain. "Eric," she said softly. He stopped, without turning. "You may not be my son." Pause. "But you were with him when he died." Another pause. "And you brought him home in the only way you could." He turned slowly, eyes breaking. "You don't have to leave," she said. The words changed everything. "You can stay." Not as a replacement, not as a lie, but as the last living piece of Lucas. Eric shook his head. "If I stay, I erase him." He placed the dog tags on the table, metal against wood. Final. He deserves his name. Weeks later, the grave was reopened, records corrected, the coffin remarked, the name changed, truth restored, late but real. Eric left town quietly. No ceremony, no applause, just a man carrying two lives inside one body. Mrs. Adler kept one thing, not the tags, not the uniform, a letter, written in Lucas's handwriting, one line underlined. "If I don't return, tell Eric he was my brother." War had taken her son, but it had not taken his choice. In the end, two soldiers had saved each other, one with life, one with memory.